Well, thank you so much for coming. Please do sit down if you can find a seat. I think outside churches they often say, come early to guarantee a back seat, you know, and you can see it's happening here as well. Fantastic. Here we go. This is great. We have a Michael at the front. So welcome. It's really wonderful to have you here. Hey, look at you all, you wonderful people. Thank you. Thank you for coming to this feast of open source office goodness. I look around and I can, if I put my glasses on, see so many wonderful people here, and it's just a thrill to have them here. One of our early cool days was significantly smaller, as you see. They have got bigger and bigger, and I think this is now you can see the hockey stick, you know, the famous graph that goes vigorously upwards, and that's very encouraging, at least to me. Something is happening in the world. What I'd really like to do is to sort of have a little bit of a feeling for who is here. And this is the audience interactive bit. I know you all just sat down, and I'm sorry about that. But I was hoping that we could do some standing up and sitting down. So if you would, when I ask you, if you could stand up and look around, that would be great, and be applauded. So, I mean, first of all, the people that make it possible for us to be here, who pay all of our salaries at Collabora, are our most beloved, people. Are our partners and our customers. So if you'd like to stand up, partners and customers, we'll give you a big round of applause. Come on. Woohoo! Thank you. Thank you so much. Hey, you rock. That's awesome. Do sit down. Now, we also have a whole load of people who help those people and encourage them to use our software. And so that's really our sales engineering, partner enablement people. Now, I hope they've got out of bed, you know, after a long night. Mevin is here, one of our sales engineers. Eloy, come on, head of our sales, you know. Here we have Hubert on the front. Fantastic. If you have awkward questions, and I think we're missing someone, but anyway, yes, awkward questions. Alina is having a baby, so we're super excited about that. I mean, I don't know. There are many ways to grow, but this is a very good one. I'm loving it. So do grab these people or grab anyone that looks like a Collabora staff member. We'd love to help improve your integration, hear about your problems, if there are any, hear about your successes to share with other people and encourage us. So now we also have a support and QA team, and I don't know, one of the sad things about our conference, of course, is that while we're having fun, the customers still need help. And so there are people that don't make it here. We have Azina, who hopefully is joining us online from Nigeria, tragically deprived of a visa. Oh, I know. But luckily this year we have many, many visas come through, and so actually most of us can be here. So, I don't know, where is Anna? Yeah, she's hiding over here. Anna, so Anna has a great team of support people. If any of those people want to stand up and be recognized, you know, if you have a bug report of any kind, you know, and Anna, you know, these wonderful people. There's a whole load of community people or developers as well. So if you know, the rest of you, I guess, just, you know, it's like one of those altar calls at church, isn't it? It gets wider and wider and wider until it's everyone. Do stand up if you're not stood up so far. Your community and developer, thank you so much. So we've got lots and lots of engineers here, and making it fun. There's a rich and interesting set of backgrounds here, and I think it's probably worth talking that through a little bit. So we have people here from HCL, for example, you know, $700 million in revenue annually, you know? And we have also individual consultants who are here on their own, just doing deployments and migrations. Politics-wise, we have the Green Party on the arguably center-left, I don't know how they describe themselves, and we have people from Schleswig-Holstein, which is a CDU-run state, whose premier is a passionate advocate in a similar way for open source and doing all this stuff, and quotes Hayek and Schumpeter, you know, and so politically we have a whole spectrum here. In terms of work, we have people in education teaching the students of the future, TU Berlin, you know, a very progressive sort of university in many ways. And we also have the military here, you know, protecting us, leading defense. So just great degree of difference. And the thing that excites me there is the consensus that's forming around all of these views that we should do something great around open source. We should work together and change the world. But it does sort of tie into this. So we really expect people here to behave with gentleness. So, you know, including people, form that Pac-Man formation if you're standing, make room for others to join. And patience. English is not, for the vast majority, the mother tongue. I know that I should speak more slowly. Stone me, you know, and maybe I will. And respect for the person, obviously not their ideas. People have stupid ideas. Look, even me. But respecting people is really important. And if you feel got at or not at all included or whatever, come and see myself or the wonderful Naomi, who is there, and we'll perhaps help. And if you blunder, and I do that all the time, I only open my mouth to change feet, as they say. But never mind, it's a silly joke. So then just, sort it out and say, yeah, there you go. So here's what we're doing today. This is this bit. You are here. I've bolded the meals and the tea breaks. They're obviously the highlight. At the end, we're going on a boat. I think the fire ship. What could go wrong? Is that right? Am I getting this right? Yeah. Okay. Perfect. It's going to be great. And meanwhile, sort of we split into half. So there's going to be a partner workshop there for partners and customers, and we'd really love to have you in that. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. Just to sort of build our roadmap and understand what you want, and so that we can do that. Now, we're in a venue here, and we have the whole floor. So, if you don't recognize someone here, say hi. Ask them what they're up to. If they seem to be some kind of gangster here to steal everything we've got, then let someone sensible know. But otherwise, hopefully it's a reasonably safe place to be. And if you need a meeting room, we have these wonderful things behind the wall, behind this stage, with little quiet booths. So, you can go and be quiet in a booth if you want. That's great. And do help yourself to drinks, food arrives, eat whatever you can, pick up and put in your mouth. Get some swag. So we have a whole load of hard-working mascots at the back. If you see it, take it, and give it to someone who would appreciate it and love it and understand that, working hard and doing good things is great. These are nature's engineers, and that's why I love them so, you see. We also have T-shirts and hoodies, and these are also all up for grabs at the back. We'll be extremely disappointed if we have to take any home. So, please do grab some of those. Now, yesterday evening, there was a bit of a hiatus in the food delivery system, and so it all came right in the end. But in the meantime, we had the Oscars, and there were a whole load of awards here, which I should learn to read, which we didn't get to award, so we're going to very quickly award them now. So, for the Domino Effect Award, I think this is a critical part of the, the knocking over of all software and making it open source. We go to HCL. So, I don't know. Do you want to, Jason, take Richard, no expense has been spared on the.
I'd like to thank the Academy.
Very wise. The Academy are very grateful. Excellent. We also have a fine wine partner, I think probably also a best dressed customer award, which is going to none other than the very wonderful Guy. So Guy, come and receive this. Aroa is a wonderful partner of ours in France, one of our first partners there. Congratulations.
We are French, so that's actually make a lot of sense to be the best in the world.
And look at the waistcoat. Look at this. This is amazing. The best in dressed form here. Yes, the Lazarus Award for sort of coming back from the dead, bringing products back from the very brink. And this goes to OwnCloud by Kiteworks. Do we have David? Here we are at the back. The very man. Look at that. You can't keep a good man down, as they say. There you go.
Thank you very much. Even though I wouldn't say we are dead, we were just very silent.
Just very silent. Fair enough. Okay. So the Danish world has been rocked recently by, the emergence of this company doing awesome things with Collabora Online across government ministries left and right. So I don't know if we have someone here from Seabrain. Woohoo! Here we go. So thank you. Driving digital sovereignty in Denmark. So over to you. Michael, anything to say?
Thank you for digital sovereignty.
Woohoo! Awesome. And I think that gives us a last one, which is, I don't know. Let me see. May also not have made it here yet. It is early in the morning. The interop icon. So, Harto Nordek, are you here? Can I see you in the audience? No, I have to grab him later. Never mind. A triumph of a hero behind Jitsi and doing all sorts of good things there. So, anyway, let's get into the more keynote-y bits. So, I'm not going to labor this very heavily because I think it's kind of obvious. But I will say a few things. So, For those living under a rock, geopolitics is a thing, you know? We're now in the 4th year of the 3-day war to demilitarize Ukraine. And Ukraine is exporting military technology to the rest of the world and defending other places. 1.2 million casualties, the largest war in Europe in 75 years. A work of strategic genius. Very sad for the rest of the world, but good for helping people understand political risk and redefining that. Now, on the other side of the Atlantic, we have even more fun, I think. So, I don't know, blew my punchline, pressed the wrong button. Anyway, maybe, no, that doesn't work either. Perfect, so, you know, touch the television and you will be healed, you know, it's how it goes. Bringing humility to theological advice to the Pope, you know, has kick-started a competition to not be the 51st state. And that's a competition between Greenland, Denmark, Canada, Panama, and it could be you know, so just do sign up. And as you know, I'm a man of faith. I think we're all at our hearts looking for the perfect leader. And, you know, we really, our hearts yearn for that. And so, you know, I'd like to put forward perhaps the best leader you can possibly hope for, you know? So there you go. Next election, we'll be campaigning on this. Against that, there's a whole load of, you know, horror in terms of big tech, you know? They're sucking our data and they're putting it in the west coast of America. And the world is becoming more and more dependent on technology, and nativism is on the rise. And so there is just an amazing set of changes in the market and a huge opportunity right now. And we're just thrilled to be there and be able to do something about it. So it's been quite a busy few weeks, and I'll just briefly talk about some of the changes that have been happening in the market. Yes, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, it has been said, and so that's fantastic. Everyone should have a vanity office suite of their own, it turns out. Now, actually, there's several ways to do that. Collabora can really help you with this. You know, we can put your logo on it, and it can be your office suite. That's great. We love to partner with people. If you like that, why not? Go for it. But I think there's a lot of excitement in the world about how easy it is to create an office suite, and we should just make another one, right? You know, we want to do a little bit of innovation, so first we'll start by totally rewriting the office suite, okay? And this is something we've been doing for many, many decades. Just as a point of reference, if you get the OpenXML spec, which is just one of the standards we interoperate with, 66,700 pages, something like that. It's a ream, you know, reams of paper up to here. You can't pick it up safely, you know, 30-some kilograms of stuff. So there are some really big problem spaces here. And this enthusiastic idea that you can cut all the features out and no one uses them is not a very sensible approach, I would argue. But still, you know, people get excited. And one of the things that excites me is that I've been, for most of my life, like many of my team, something of a contrarian investor, you know? The people who buy when everyone else is selling. The people who swim against the tide, the fishes that are, you know, going upstream for most of their life. And we've invested decades of our lives in something that is described widely as, that's a madness, you know? And chasing the tail lights of Microsoft and so on and so on. And actually in doing that, we have built a wonderful piece of software that just happens to be exactly what the world needs right now, okay? And yeah, I mean, it's just incredible. So I'm really thrilled that we've done that, and we've brought all of this experience together, and we've built something so good. And I think the sudden fashionability of our worldview is slightly worrying to me. As a contrarian investor, I might need to change tack, right? But no, just stick with it for a while. And yeah, it's just really exciting to see that validated by so much interest in this space in doing things in the office space. So I think that's just great. And yeah, and whatever happens here, we will grow the set of people that start to understand some of the depth and interest of problems in this space. So that's good. This is, I think, a great saying that perhaps captures some of these things. I think there's a degree of optimism that's necessary to start any great task, but some of these tasks are really very large, and we really encourage people to work together with us and do something good. So let me talk briefly then about some of the Collabora distinctives. So I think we have a clean license. We're using a Mozilla public license. We know who contributed it. We can actually sell it. We can make binaries and ship them. And we work with a large community of people that are happy with that, which is great. We have an open development process. So our day-to-day work is done in public Git. We have a public issue tracker. We have mailing lists. We have community calls. We'd love to include people in that. We have thousands, tens of thousands of public unit and integration tests so that as you compile the software, you can be sure that actually it works. And we also use a type-safe language, so it's relatively hard to break it. In contrast to mounds of JavaScript with none of these things. That's quite a big difference. We have public crash testing results. We do dynamic fuzzing all the time to defend the code from malicious hackers. We also have some degree of control over our document model. We collaborate with others around the open document format. That's not quite our model, but it's similar to it. And we have then excellent interoperability with the OpenXML world. Our team is worldwide. We're amazingly distributed. We're around half of those, actually slightly more now, I think, in the EU. And just an amazing wealth of experience of Office problems. Finally, we're fully focused on actual documents. We love to partner with other people to do the bits that seem easy but are actually difficult, And we respect other people, that they also have difficult problem spaces, and so do we. And so we don't try and compete with our partners. We try and promote them and give them leads and business. Now, performance has become something that people are excited about. And I'd like to just go through some of the things we've been doing in this area. So the first thing is that it's very important as an engineer to profile before optimizing. If you don't do this, you find yourself optimizing the 1% case and not the 99% case. And so you make it 100 times faster, and it still doesn't appear any faster, right? Amdahl tells us this. So what are people actually doing? Are they editing? Are they collaborating? Or are they mostly just thumbnailing? Actually, one of the biggest loads on our Collabora Online is just producing document thumbnails, interestingly. Probably people deploying big systems should farm that off to a separate thing. We run that at a very low priority. But here are the rough numbers. So this is from looking at our internal users and our demo users, seeing what sort of things they do. So there's a 5-to-2 ratio there, viewers to editors. So the viewers obviously just don't do anything. They just never change the document. So then what about users in each document? So who is editing? One of the tragedies of the modern world is that most collaboration is done by itself. It's just one user. This blue bit is one user collaborating with themselves. And that's a shame, isn't it? Look at that. Oh, we should grow this set. But it makes sense. People tend to spend a lot of time producing a document, and then they share it with their friends. They don't say, here's an ill-formed mess of an unfinished something, perhaps you could review it, or perhaps you could collaborate. They like to come up with the answer, and then they share it, right? So if you then look at this is just looking at the 2/7 of the people actually editing, and most of that is just two people, so one person and someone else. So these are quite small numbers, and when we crunch them a different way, 5%, 1 in 20 are actually editing with someone else. So that's interesting, isn't it? So then when it comes to latency, one of the things that we can do is we can write a beautiful controller. Now this cool controller started as a way of dynamically load scaling Kubernetes, which is awesome. And Rash, I think I can't see Rash, but he's there, woohoo, at the back there with his hand up, fantastic. If you're interested, stand up, Rash, because the cool controller is very, very cool. This guy here is a hero of dynamic load balancing. Yeah, oh yeah. Amid many other things, AI as well. And so this is a really good way of scaling your demand and your compute as you need to, as people get in. But we also made it do geolocation, so that you can pick a server for those 95% of users who are alone. You can pick a server that's right next to you. So there's a very low latency, very great experience there. And only then when you need to collaborate can you upgrade that to something else. So that's one approach. Another approach is to bring the software right into your browser. So, that's a pretty extreme form of this. But we had a prototype last year here, so you have around 100 megabytes of code to download once, hopefully. And then you can all do that viewing and the viewing and the editing locally in the browser. So that essentially runs our server web service in WebAssembly, compiled natively to your machine locally. And so that's a brilliant way of taking huge amounts of load off the server, if indeed that's a problem, which it broadly isn't. And I'll show you some numbers on that in a minute, but we like to overfix problems, let's say. The only issue with this is the browser is relatively immature with WASM. It works very nicely, but the browser itself doesn't allow us to share these WASM instances between tabs. So I think Stefan Bergman here and also Chris Lord have been doing some great work working on the browsers themselves to have these tickets filed and good designs for sharing WASM bits over multiple processes. So there's some great stuff there, and I hope Miklos will have a talk later and tell us, some of the status on that. But this is actually making progress. I mean, it's a little bit annoying to have to go and fix the browser, but still, if you need to, then we should do that. Another approach, which is not beholden to the browser, is then to bring that down to run natively on your desktop. So the same user experience on both web and desktop, taking advantage of all that beautiful UX work and research that Pedro and Ivana and Bonobi have done to make it look beautiful. So that's really nice, and we've launched that recently, but the cool new stuff, and hopefully Stefan will have a talk about this shortly, is then being able to notice that other people are actually editing, and then providing options. Do you want to edit locally? Maybe on the train you're going on and offline a lot and you just want to keep it there. Or do you want to start collaborating? Do you want to then switch that pane to using a remote Collabora online so you can then collaborate together? So some exciting things coming there, and do check out Stefan's talk. So all of this is solving a problem, and there may be a problem there, but we're not very convinced about that. But what I'd like to do is just look briefly at the costs of hosting a complicated enterprise file and sync and share, a solution with Collabora Online embedded in it. And let me walk you through this. I was just talking to a chap's large German university. It's not 40, it's 400. This slide is out of date. Okay, fair enough. I shall increase the numbers as I go along. I'm afraid my wonderful marketing team are not there. I think it's 200,000 students using it, 220. And this is actually 2x cluster. I couldn't quite believe the amount of hardware that was there. So this is not 1,000 cores, it's 2,000 cores and 40 terabytes of RAM, right? And what we're running on this cluster, there's a 5 petabyte storage as well. So this is a separate IBM storage solution that that is out of the back, right? And so what's actually running on this relatively substantial cluster? And I say relatively substantial because a couple of thousand cores actually is, 5, 6, 7 machines in today's world. Like we've got a lot of cores going on in today's world. So this runs Kubernetes control plane, Ingress controllers, the unnamed enterprise file sync and share, the Apache processes that go with it, the PHP stuff, MariaDB, Galera databases for metadata monitoring, and us, okay? Collabora. So, and it's about 50% loaded, although it goes up and down. So, this is not just throwing hardware at a problem, it's actually in use daily. Collabora uses around 20 cores, and it spikes up to around 80 cores. It uses about 200 gig of RAM to serve those 200 and whatever thousand accounts. Obviously, they're not all active at once. The rest of it uses around 2,000 cores, it turns out, and 40 terabytes of RAM, right? So, we use some resources, it's true. I feel bad. We want to get our 200 gigabytes of RAM halved, and we have some plans to do that, and I'll show you that in a second. But we're really optimizing the 1% at this point, right? Like, this is not the problem. So I leave that as a thought. So let me talk about how we're going to migrate more work into the browser and the progress on that. So if we go back to the very beginning of Collabora Online, we started migrating all sorts of things across. So we would render pixels on the server, and send tiles of those so the text would come across into the browser. And we then, of course, special cased selections and cursors, because it makes no sense to render pixels of a blinking cursor on a server and send that every day. That would just be silly now, wouldn't it? So we don't do that, and we render those things on the top of that. Now, over time, we started to migrate more. So, zooming and panning and scrolling, all of that happens on the client side, pretty much. And then we brought shape movement. So we would have previews of shape, so that as you drag and resize and move your shape, that's all happening on the client side too, and just gets fixed up when you're done. So very interactive and snappy. Then we started moving our dialogues. So there are a whole load of benefits from having native JavaScripty dialogues in terms of not just the look and the theming and getting the CSS nice, but being able to get accessibility right here and also, of course, performance and interactivity going really, really nicely there. So all the dialogues are there. So that brings us to pretty much today. And in today's world, we really want to get this even better. So one of the things we're going to be doing is moving away from having tiled text rendered on the server to vector streams. So we'll bring the glyphs, probably not actual characters, but the glyphs and the vectors, still do the layout on the server so that we get a lot of that right, accurate with our large, complex and mature code base. And then, of course, starting to serve images as files rather than decompressing them, scaling and rendering them at multiple resolutions on the server side, which then takes some CPU and takes a whole chunk of memory. One of the problems is that our beloved camera manufacturers have decided to compete by adding ever more pixels. 50 megapixels, 51 megapixels, are you going to get the 52 or the 100 megapixel camera, right? The only problem with the 100 megapixel camera is this, that your screen at 1080p, probably what we have here, is 2 megapixels, right? So you can't see all that detail anyway. But what you can see is the cost of interpolating it down to this. And the bigger the picture and the smaller the screen you have to render it to, the more work we have to do to get that done. So let's put that work on the client. And even a 4K screen is only 8 megapixel. So you really have to be zooming in at great depth to see that, to get your beautiful high-resolution beaver picture there. So we're going to move all of this then into the client, save chunks of server RAM, and that's underway at the moment, thanks to Quickie, who's leading that. Aha! So if you're interested, talk to Tomasz. So this allows us to essentially continue this journey of moving more understanding and more information about the documents into the browser, which is the obvious direction to go to make this more and more rich here and be able to do more fun stuff. So we're continuing then as we go forward to mirror this document structure, which we'll keep here because we have very mature models here, and bring that into the client. So one of the things we can then start to do, if we understand paragraphs and a bit of the layout here, is we can do what we call turbo layout. So if you look at the history of the code base we work on, back in the day, computers were sufficiently slow that it was very expensive to lay out your document. Like really, it took a very long time. And so there were lots of ways to avoid doing that. So actually there are about 3 or 4 different layers of re-layout and re-rendering that happen in the writer core, for example. And so there's one called turbo layout, which is pretty simple. Shuffle stuff along, jam something in and hope, right? And this is pretty good at giving you a very, very snappy response. So, you put your Y in, and it nails the glyph that it guesses for Y on the end. And that's fine, because we can send the Ys here, and we can come back later, and if there is something difficult that needs doing, we already have mechanisms to then adapt and adjust all of that stuff. The footnotes with tables and fly frames in them, and floating objects and balance columns, and all of the complexity of iterative loop layouts that you need to get this beautiful. We can do that and get that right transparently in the background and then update the client. So this is the plan of where we're going to get incredibly snappy things that no one can even think of complaining about in the client in the short term. Now, another change that's happened in recent times is this amazing, if in doubt, kick them out approach from the Document Foundation, which is surprising and relatively unwelcome. But the good news is it frees us up to do more of this migration and dramatic change to the core, to bring that Office document data into the browser, and to lose some of the older things. The Java world that's still there in the desktop is a bit of a problem for maintenance. Having a single VCL backend instead of 5, 6, 7 would be helpful. This is our underlying rendering layer. Getting rid of the database and various other bits there. So there's a whole load of things that this actually helps accelerate and will be really good for. So partly around this, we've then moved our Collabora Office to a classic. We've renamed that, so Collabora Office has changed. It's now the new Collabora Office. And that's then built around this shared infrastructure with Collabora Online, shared experience, shared training, everything. So, cool. Well, why work with Collabora? Let me get out of the technical bit, more into the touchy-feely bit. Here we go. An organic software company, yes. We don't use pesticides and, I don't know, nitrogen fertilizer. We are the real thing, And our owners and stewards, myself and Philippe Calaf with the staff, some of our senior staff. And that means that actually everything we do is funded by you, and we're really grateful for your support, and we try and plow that back into improving open source. Because we basically have a distinctive mission, which is to make open source the de facto standard in the industry, or make open source rock, as I like to describe it, whilst also making a sustainable business. It doesn't help make open source rock in our mission if we bankrupt ourselves next week. So we're quite conservative as a business. We really try and earn money before spending it and all those crazy things, I know. Having said that, we're encouragingly growing. So in the previous year, we grew 50%, something like that, or 40%. This year, we've grown about 11%. And there's a whole load of people to welcome here. So thank you. Welcome to these new guys. Can you give them a round of applause for... Yeah, look at that. A whole load of great people. Thank you, thank you. And we've also added, just to prove how incredibly professional we are, not just a tie, right? But 9,001, 27,000, we just added 14,001. So now we have an environmental management policy, which is super exciting. I mentioned we were organic, right? Good. So, and I just see this in many ways. One of the ways I see this is when I try and tell people things on our channel. It says, you know, you're about to send notifications to 76 people in 42 time zones. Are you sure you want to do this? That's always encouraging to see, isn't it? Geographically dispersed, robust team. So Eloy's going to do a talk next on feature highlights. But I just want to really talk about how free we are in today's world to do exactly what our customers want and our partners want. So, you know, that's liberty. Here are some of the improvements that we found and segmented in our partner workshop last year. And we've done some amazing things. Lily will be announcing some things here. Actually, we have, I think, TwinCubes, our accessibility testing partner, will be here later. And offline support, I've talked quite a bit about some of those things, WASM and offline, a document compare, copy paste, various other wins. We'll be having a workshop in this room at the back left here shortly, at 11:30ish. And we would love to have all our partners, the people that we work with and go to market with, who are not competing with us. We would love to have them there. If you're a customer, then please do come along if you're a big customer and, you know, get stickering and show us what you want to do. If you're unsure and you'd like to come and see me, come and see Eloy. Don't be left out. Last year there were some people who thought, oh, I'm a large consultancy customer and I'm interested, but anyway, come and see me. We'd love to include you if you're in that bucket. A very quick overview of what we've been doing then. Some of the things that our customers were not asking for, but we did anyway because we thought it would be good for them. So improving interoperability. We've invested a lot in this. There's a whole load of fixes going in there and some encouraging burn down things. There's some bits left at the bottom there where we can do clever things that Microsoft can't do. Their file format can represent them completely validly. I mean, it's valid XML, but they can't load and render them, which is pretty annoying. But either way, we're doing a good job then of writing much better Microsoft XML. The AI world is going crazy, and there's a talk, I think, tomorrow by myself on Rash's work there. And so there's a lot of fun stuff there in terms of integrating that. MCPs, so AIs can get involved in editing your document and doing things remotely, interrogating that, and so on. All of this is off by default, don't worry. You know, you have to actually turn it on before anything happens. And that allows, of course, the vital work of including beaver pictures into everything, you know, to go on at a great pace. So that's great. We've also been doing a whole lot of UX work. I'd really encourage you to go and see what Pedro's talking about and get involved in design. Andreas Kynes is here. I think there's a whole load of UX things going on here. So that pretty much concludes my talk. Just to say again, welcome. I think if you look around the room here, we have a mega cluster of free and open source Office goodness in this room. These are the world's best Office developers, marketeers, salespeople, lobbyists, designers, support people. They're all here. If we stand too close together, we'll achieve critical mass. You know, so just please, you know, keep your distance. And of course, we have all our partners and customers, and together, you know, there's just an awesome team here that is changing the face of digital sovereignty in a way that totally is outsized, you know, given our scale here. So we're just really excited to be able to host that here, to invite you in, and encourage you to enjoy the talks, to learn, to chat, make friends, and you know, just get excited about this mission that we're on together. And help us plan our next year of work, I think. We talked about that. And we're just really, really pleased. It's just an honor and a privilege to be able to draw so many smart people together, to have them in one room. Thank you all so much for coming. And thanks, too, for all that you do for FLOSS and digital sovereignty and driving that. I know people here made big sacrifices, have invested lots of their time and life in doing this, and we respect and honor that. Yeah. You're most welcome. Thank you.